friendly attractions, plus a spectacular fireworks display. Get tickets at stonemountainpark.com.
I run on accountability, okay? I am responsible for my office.
Our investigation into Atlanta City Councilman Michael Julian Bond has now sparked an ethics investigation. Welcome back to Atlanta Live. Great to have you with us. In fact, many of the facts in our report are the highlight of this ethics complaint that I have in my hand. Joining me, Caesar Mitchell, president of the Atlanta City Council, and also ethics officer Nina Hickson, here to talk about these allegations this morning. Thank you both so much for getting up early and being here, because this stuff is important. Let me start with the ethics investigation and how that process works, Nina. Who is going to ultimately judge whether or not the councilman violated the rules?
Ultimately, it will be the responsibility of the ethics board to determine whether there's been a violation. What happens is, as the ethics officer, if something is brought to my attention that raises an issue, then I have an obligation to file the complaint, begin the investigative process to determine whether I believe probable cause exists that an ethics violation has occurred. If I determine probable cause exists, then I provide an opportunity for the person who's been accused to respond to that. And if we are not able to reach an agreement, then ultimately there's a hearing before the ethics board.
And then the board rules like a jury or a judge would rule? Sort of.
Sort of.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of these things that we uncovered and now are part of this ethics complaint. You're talking about $2,500 for a personal tutor, $2,000 for party favors and food for a high school reunion. Is that at all, if it's true, is there any explanation for that could be, hey, it's an okay expense?
Well, certainly I'm not involved in the investigation in any form or fashion, and certainly.
But as a council president.
Well, I don't want to comment on the specifics of the investigation, but what I will say is, as council president, I will be making some recommendations to better support council members as we go through the expense requisition process. I think there are some things we can improve on our form. There are parties, including the ethics officer, that I believe we can get involved in the process, in a routine fashion that I think will help us make good decisions about our expenses.
Now, one thing that has taken a lot of people back, myself included, is the travel. An Atlanta City councilman traveling to D.C., traveling to Boston. What's the oversight process for someone who's a councilman, a local councilman, to take trips?
Well, first and foremost, council members do travel around the state, around the metropolitan Atlanta area, around the country, and even around the world for matters related to their work as public servants. And that is not unusual for council members to do that. It's not unusual for any public servant or any elected official to do that. I think the most important thing is for us to make sure, because council members, and I think this is important to note, every council office is really a department in and of itself. And so at the end of the day, the council member has to make a decision, and it really makes the final decision about how they spend their budget.
Or herself.
Yes, absolutely. So my recommendations really will be around providing support for council members in that process, to have third parties who can help us review. But at the end of the day... And
take another look at it, another set of eyeballs. That makes sense. I wanted to ask you, if in fact the allegations here prove to be true in front of a board, what can the board do to the council member? What's the impact? What's the punishment, the sentence?
Under the Atlanta Ethics Code, the sanctions run from anywhere from a fine to reimbursement to recommendations. If we determine that an action is beyond the scope of the ethics code, we can make recommendations. And if we determine that there may be behavior that has a criminal basis, then we can make a referral. I think it's important to note that unlike the DeKalb County Code, the Atlanta Code does not provide the board with the power to remove a public official. And so the sanctions are limited in that regard.
All right. I know you both got up very early and have a busy time getting the families ready in the morning, so we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We got much more. Don't go anywhere. Chesley's forecast.